Alright, here we are, another episode of Poncho's Paint Booth. Welcome once again. Real quick, if you like, or if you've seen any of my previous videos, you like what I've seen, or you like what you've seen so far, like and subscribe to Multi-Murdy Media here on YouTube, also on Instagram and Facebook. You'll get all the Poncho's Paint Booth videos. You will get all of the Gutsy Ass Gamer videos. And you'll get my podcast, Jankety Ass Podcast, which you can also listen to just pretty much anywhere you get podcasts. Actually, now finally all the major sources. I finally got Pandora. And also, if you want to support me in other ways other than, liking, subscribing, leaving a rating, leaving a review, do all that stuff. But also, if you want to support this show in particular, if you go down to the all my link in the episode description below, you'll also get a link to my Warhammer Amazon list. If you want to purchase me a model to do up for the show here, I'll give you a shout out, and I'll make it cool. And I also have my Amazon music list out there as well. That's more to support the podcast for just more segments. Again, I'll give you a shout out there. Now, for today, what we're working on is we're now getting into the 40k Demons of Chaos line. And today, we're going to start with the Slaanesh Fiend. Now, I got 3 guys here, but they're pretty big, so for the video, I'm only going to be working on one on camera. Obviously, I'll do the other guys off camera because Slaanesh is one faction that I do occasionally play. These guys are basically big centaur-like dudes. And this one, in particular, is technically or can be used as a squad leader. They use a different name. I don't remember just right off the top of my head. But, yeah, so in the game, and, well, I guess story-wise, these guys are pretty good. They're kind of easy to kill, just since they're not characters, and if you got one running around by itself, it can get shot up. But, at the same time, they're pretty good to get near if your opponent's using psychers of any kind, and they're one of very few units in the game that can keep your opponent from running away from combat, which for better or for or not running away, retreating. What's the word? Voluntarily retreating from combat, which is good, especially if you manage to get in against an army that normally has a lot of shooting. So, what we're gonna do is for the skin elements of this guy, we're going to start off with our corpse pale, which, as you remember, that's the lightest of the actual flesh tones, I believe, that's available in Army Painter. It's very light, and that is going to go over. Now, again, this is kind of deceptive, so there's a lot of areas that have skin on them, but there's also a lot of areas that don't really. As well, you'll see as we go along. So it's going to be corpse pale, and then we're going to go over that with a layer of Agri-X Earth Shade to get a lot of the recesses and kind of build out the different muscle tones all over. And then once that's done, I'll come back later and dry brush back over again with the corpse pale. That's going to bring out all the lighter tones back again, namely the highlights. So, without further ado, this is going to take a bit. Let's go ahead and get started with our corpse pale. Alright, there we go. That's the start of our Fiend Alpha. I still can't remember what the actual name of the Alpha is. But, Alpha, whatever. And you'll also notice that I went ahead and did up the 2 skulls that are on the base, just because I don't want to deal with that later. Knock it out now. So, as I mentioned before, I will be going back in with the corpse pail and dry brushing over all the skin, getting it really light. But in order for that to happen, we gotta let the shade dry on this guy, girl, thing. It's androgynous and ambiguous. These things are. You can see on their chest. One side has titties and one side does not. So they're both, I guess. Anyways, either way, that doesn't change the process, and we'll come back to this in a second. Alright, moving along with this guy, girl, thing, whatever. Our next step is to go ahead and finish off the skin, and so what I'm going to do for that is go back in with our corpse pail color, and we're going to do a nice dry brush over the whole thing. So let's go ahead, get some paint out. That might be a little much, but no matter. Alright, and let's go ahead and start with, I'll do the feet since they're the most annoying. So you can kind of already see that some of the brighter colors coming back through, which is probably not that easy to see, but it's there. Go around here. I don't really have to worry about the inside too much, since that's not going to be as well seen by anybody looking. Yeah, this was way too much paint, but whatever. Alright, so now onto the body. We got all these nice muscular curves and ridges that really pick up the dry brush edging detail, especially once I get to the chest here of this guy. But first, we got the other side of the torso to do up. Get a little bit underneath. And on the chest and arms. Oh yeah, looking much better. And now we just got to do the face real quick. Awesome. Alright, so that is the skin completely done. Don't have to worry about that anymore. And now, what we're going to do is start working on the more, like the claws and the carapace-like elements. So that's pretty much going to be, yeah, well, the claws, the one on the tail, some of the ridges and spikes on the head, and then all of this going back along this spine, her spine. And for that, what we're going to use is our sea gray. So there we go. That's going to be the main color. And then I'm going to hit it with a Nuln Oil on top of that to bring out the contrast. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, that is the carapace and the claws done. So as always, we're going to go ahead and let this wash dry. And then, well, here, I'll give you a little bit of a view. So there. And when we come back, well, we'll move on. Alright, our black wash is all dried up. So now what we're going to do is go back in and extract some highlights. And to do that, I'm going to use a slightly lighter gray color. That's our ash gray. And we'll just dry brush over all the gray parts. So let's go, whatever. Just go in on the claws, on the feet, to start out with. And I'll show you what it looks like in a second here. Or once I get all of it done, I guess. Actually, I'll show you with the tail piece. You can already see kind of, yeah, there's a lot of nice brighter highlights, which we wouldn't have quite gotten if I'd only gone back in with the same color, which I did try elsewhere, and it didn't really look correct, or it didn't give me this effect, so we go with the lighter gray. Okay, tail's done. Now we'll hit the back here with all these spines, and there's some ridges back here too. I gotta be somewhat careful with. There we go. And the same with the head. It's got all these horns and ridges and all kinds of fun stuff. I'll just hit real quick. Perfect. And now, of course, the fun part is these giant claws that he's got. There, another really looking nice and detailed. Like so. And of course, we're going to do the same with the other side. and gotta get the undersides. Okay. Now I have been keeping up with the other two while I've been working on this guy off screen, so I'm gonna pause real quick and get them while my paint is still wet. And we're back. I used up all the rest of the paint. It was the perfect amount. So, yeah, that's the carapace and the claws and all that fun stuff is done. So now what we're gonna do is move on to the cloth elements on these guys. You'll notice that there's well, specifically on the legs, they have like a sort of leggings, and then also a wrap on the tail as well. And then each of these have like some sort of a loincloth type of thing, or something similar between the yeah, that's pretty much it, just sort of between the legs here. So for the leggings, what we're going to do is the base color is going to be heavy violet. It's a Vallejo color. It's a nice dark purple. And then for the cloth in the middle, I'm going to use Crusted Soar. It's kind of like a reddish purple or darker red, or as close as I could find. So starting with the purple, get it nice and shook up. I haven't opened this one yet. And let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so I'm actually going to continue this off camera because as you can see, my Crusted Soar paint is a little on the wet side. I had to mix it up quite a bit. It looks like I still have to do more. But you can also see where those colors are going. And this purple is, it's a little more bluish than I had intended. But it's still purple. So yeah, I'm going to finish this up and kind of do up the other guys, and we'll come back in a moment. And I'm also real quick, I'm also going to do, where is it? I'm going to add in the Druchii Violet wash onto both the purple and the crimson sections. And I'll just do that off camera as well, and just show you what it looks like in a bit. All right, as promised, the all the purples and the crimsons are done. It is pretty dark looking though, and I went ahead and added in the purple shade, or what's this stuff called again? Druchii Violet, into the claw sections here. And so now what we're gonna do is I'm going to dry brush over all of the purple and crimson sections with a lighter purple, blue violet, and that is going to give us our highlights. So, and now I'm expecting to get a bit more of a glob of paint than I want, so I might just end up doing all three of these guys. Guy girls. Oh well. Get my little brush palette ready, and let's just see how far this gets me. Alright, well, it seems that the amount of paint I put down was more or less just enough. So you can see, especially on the legs, we got some nice muscle definition. And even a little bit on the tail. So we'll just sit on that for a second, and when we come back, well, obviously we'll start working on some more stuff. Are you listening to this show and thinking, man, I'd like to start a podcast, but I don't even know where to start? Well, Buzzsprout has the answers for you. Buzzsprout is a podcast hosting service that provides a number of valuable resources to help you on your podcasting career path. For one, Buzzsprout offers indefinite hosting of all your episodes and allows you to host as much material as you want, depending on the type of subscription that you opt for. Buzzsprout also provides a means for getting your show hosted to every major podcasting platforms such as iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, you name it. In addition, Buzzsprout also provides various means to get your show monetized through various sponsorship and affiliate programs, links to other paid hosting platforms such as Patreon and YouTube, and your own personal newsroom to learn all the tips and tricks for optimizing your podcast for the greatest return on your investment. If you're hearing all this and you're still interested, you can go to my link below and receive an Amazon gift card for starting a podcast hosting subscription that you'll receive on the second billing period of your podcast journey. Everyone has something to share, and there's no time like the present. Join Buzzsprout today. Alright, so now we're going to get into some of the more painstaking details on these guys, girls, whatever. You'll notice that there's a lot of strings and straps kind of all over this model and hanging off in different parts and stuff like that. And so for those, what we're going to do is we're going to hit those with our leather brown. And so that's going to be, yeah, pretty much just like all the strings and stuff. And then, well, I'll worry about like the baubles and other decorations later. But first, let's see how long this takes us. Alright, you might have noticed a bit of a jump. That's just because I went ahead and did this process on the other two fiends that I have. But so I went ahead and it is kind of hard to see, maybe a little bit better on the chest, but there's leather straps all over. So that's done. What I'm going to do now is we're going to get into the metal details. Let's see where we're at. So that's going to be done with our shining silver and bright gold. So the silver, you'll notice that they have, so like these shoulder guards and the shin guards that they have. And Also, well, there's a bunch of gems and stuff kind of all over the models, and then anytime they have the Slaanesh symbol on here, that's going to be gold. But then for the rest of it, there's some beads and stuff, namely on the strings, and then this guy has a couple of arm wraps as well. Those are going to be silver. So I will start with the silver, and let's see what this ends up looking. I'll just do them both at the same time. Let's see what it looks like. Alright, so that was the silver parts. You'll notice that I went ahead and dug into the other models just because, well, I kind of got a little bit more paint on my palette that I wanted. So I might as well try and use it. But now, we're going to get into the gold stuff. Which, as I mentioned, again, that's going to be for the greaves on their legs. Their bracers kind of above their claws here. And then, of course, on the tail, and then in this case, the decorations on the horns, and one of the other guys has like a couple rings and stuff. And then there's also, like I said, the gem insets, and then these rings that are like ring piercings that they use to hold up their leggings and all that fun stuff. So let's go ahead and get into that. Alright, so that's kind of the basic gold sections that we're going to do. As you may be able to tell, I'm going to have to go back in and do a second coat of this. And I didn't want to tackle the baubles just yet, so I'm going to do that off camera when we come back. And I also want to deal with the other guys at the same time, because again, I got plenty of paint. So yeah, we'll come back to this, and all of the metals and stuff will be done. Alright, so, well, first thing is I'm going to start working on these fiends as the full unit now, since I have been, keeping up with everything else. And they're all kind of at the same spot. But what we're going to do now is, well, as I promised, all of the metals are done. I did the full coats off camera, and I did some other things too. I don't remember exactly what though. But what we're gonna do now is first I'm gonna paint their tongues that they got sticking out, and that's gonna be done with Pixie Pink. It's not the brightest pink, which I do have, but it's up there. And then on those tongues, we're gonna go over them with a shade or with a layer of Carroburg Crimson. It's a wash shade. It's kind of a more darker crimson red. This is actually close to the crusted sore paint that I used on others, but in a shade version. And the last one I'm going to do is I'm going to apply Nuln Oil, and where that's going to go is you'll notice that in a lot of the where's a good example? So, well, yeah, like on this guy, a lot of the like all the bracers and the shoulder pads, they have some grooves kind of cut in. And so what I'm going to do is just go in kind of lightly with the Nuln Oil and fill in those areas so that they stand out more. But let's go ahead and start off with the tongues and see what that looks like. Alright, I believe that's good enough for now. We got... What did I do? Oh yeah, filled in the cracks basically on the armor. Got that done, and so we're gonna let that all dry off before we come back. Alright, our fiends are just about done. We only have really just a couple things left to do on the actual model itself. And then it'll be time to get started on the base. So what we're going to do with these guys, and, well, again, I'm still working on all three of them at the same time now. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start off with, I'm going to do the gems that are all over the model here, and what we're going to do for that is start off with a base of white. Probably take a couple coats again, as always. Get a nice white on all the gems, and then I'm going to coat them with this one, the Waywatcher Green. And what this does is it works kind of like a contrast paint, where there's more color in the recesses, but then this also applies a glossy finish to those areas as well, which, again, they're gems, so that's what we want. And at the same time, what I'm also going to do is get a start on the bases here, and that is going to be done with a layer of cold gray. It's not the darkest gray that I have, but, it's a little bit darker and more muted, and will provide a good underlayer for, actually, let me absolutely double check. I might want... No. Yeah, that's the one I want. Cold gray. And that... Well, let's see. I'm just messing up my work area over here. So, yeah, what I'm probably going to do is it's going to be white, a layer of white, and then I'll do the gray, and then I'll do the second layer of white, and then this. So, let's go ahead and get it all started. Alrighty, so gems are done. The bases are started. Put all this away. So now, all that's really left to do, I almost forgot about this, is the eyes on them. And for that is really simple. We're just going to hit them with pure red. And let's see, these guys, well, they actually have, most of them have 4 eyes. One guy has 6 eyes. So that'll be easy and quick. Just get some of this red out. Hope it's thick enough. Yeah, that looks about right. Let's get these out of the way again. And I'll just have to go in with my thin brush. And we'll just stick some, make nice red eyes. Nothing too fancy. Just needs to stand out. Alright, so that's one done. Here's number 2. This is the one with the 6 eyes. So there's some really small ones in here. And the other side. Alright. And now for the leader of the pack. And the other side. And that's it. So there we go. So you can see he's got some nice bright red eyes. All the gems are done with this kind of a lightish green color all over with a bit of a glow to it too, I guess. And again, we got nice gray bases. So when we come back, I'm going to add some more elements on the base off camera, just like a few rocks and stuff like that. And then whenever we come back, it'll be time to well, get started on all that. Alrighty, our fiends are coming along pretty nicely. The actual model, as we discussed earlier, is finished. The model being like, everything above the base. And so all we really have left is just to finish up the bases here. So I haven't actually done, or no, I have done. I've done chaos bases before, or at least my chaos bases. You'll remember with the Master of Executions that we did way back in week 4, or video 4, I should say. Well, we're going to be doing pretty much the same thing. With the one difference is one of the texture paints that I had ran out. So instead, what we're doing is we're replacing that with our some ground texture compound, and this one is the rough gray pumice, and it's actually going to take over what used to be the astro granite, where it's like a bumpy, sandy, rocky sort of texture, but it's more fine grain. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cover large sections of these bases with this, and then some smaller sections we're going to use astro granite debris, which it's pretty much the same thing, but I guess this is a little bit lighter, and it's also a lot chunkier. So first we're going to go ahead and get into this, which I don't think I've opened yet. I have not. There we go. Oh yeah. So you can kind of already see it's actually very similar to the have I don't think I've showed you guys the snow yet. But I have another one that's similar to this, but so yeah, you'll see it's nice and chunky. It is pretty light, but I am gonna be eventually going over everything with some black shade as well. So it'll be slightly different, but let's go ahead and get ripping on these guys. Alright, so that is as much as we can do with the base. This pumice color is a lot lighter than I hoped it would be, but as I mentioned, we're gonna be there's gonna be some more work done, primarily off camera, I believe, would be best. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go ahead and let all of this material dry, and I'm gonna apply some wash off camera, kind of darken up the all the sprite stuff a bit and add, just more texture and such. And then we're going to move on to the last little bit of element, which is going to be the ashes, but that'll be when we come back. Okay, so these guys are just about done. We just got to finish up the last few details on the bases. And, well, as I mentioned before, I went ahead and let the pumice layer dry, and then added in the black wash on top of that. So that's what you're looking at now. Actually, what's interesting about this pumice stuff is that, like, as it dries, it became a bit transparent. So there were some sections where the gray was showing through, which is good because it makes the colors a little bit more uniform. And then, of course, you got these debris layers that are still a little bit darker, but it's fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dry brush over those with our dark sea gray, bit of a lighter gray, so that'll bring out basically a bunch of little highlights and like all the gravel and rocky texture that we got going on here. After that, clean up the edges with matte black. So let's go ahead and get that done. Alright, basic base stuff, all done. So now, my task, the last thing I gotta do with these guys, girls, whatever, is put some ash on the bases. Let's see, I had a spoon here. Here we go. This part's pretty easy for the most part. I just gotta apply some glue, some super glue to the sections that I want done up, and sprinkle some of this ash stuff on them. This is literally the same thing that I did with the whatchamacallit, Master of Executions in that first video, but just a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and get that done, and we'll finish this up. Alrighty, folks, there you have it. The Slaanesh Fiends are completed, completely finished. I don't know, I had a thought and then it wasn't a full thought, but let me get this out of the way. We'll put these things all on display for you. Boom. So, once again, thank you for watching the paint booth, checking out our fiends. Oh, this isn't the one I started with, actually. Here we go. Leader of the pack. So anyways, if you like this video, like and subscribe here to my YouTube channel, Multi-Murdy Media. You get, this video, all the ones that I did before, all the ones that I'm going to do after, and I have a lot in the books. I have a lot planned. And you also get my other playlists on this channel, the Jankety Ass Podcast. That's the video format of my podcast. And the Gutsy Ass Gamer, which is, that one's going to be several playlists. There's a couple on here already, but that's my my Twitch stream, basically, and I just kind of, chop it up and edit it for you guys. Also, if you do end up liking my podcast, Jankety Ass Podcast, you can also find it in audio format in every podcast platform there is. iTunes, Spotify, Pandora. Well, not every podcast platform, but all the main ones. It's there wherever you want to look. And, of course, also check out Multi-Murdy Media on both Facebook and Instagram. Like and subscribe there. You get all the updates to all my shows as they come out. And, what else? Oh, yes, and lastly, if you go to the All My Links page in the video description here, you will also see a couple of Amazon wish lists. One of them is my Warhammer wish list. That, if you want to get something off of that list, that directly supports this show because it gives me something to work on, and I'll give you a shout out. And then also the music playlist directly supports the podcast. Gives me it's for another segment for me to talk about. And again, I'll give you a shout out. So either way, thanks for watching and stay tuned.